Hey, what's up guys, flipping at you with a brand new Yu-Gi-Oh! Discussion video, and today we're going to be taking a look at some of the recently revealed cards from Vrains Pack 3 and the recently announced Premium Pack 20. And in particular, we're going to be talking about the brand new Rose Dragon support. So obviously Rose Dragons are an archetype centered around Akiza's Black Rose Dragon, and for the longest time, Black Rose Dragon wasn't really a deck. It had a few support cards in the form of Thorn of Malice and Blue Rose Dragon specifically, and of course it has its manga counterpart, Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. Unfortunately, Moonlight Dragon isn't technically part of the archetype anymore, as it's not Black Rose Moonlight, Black Moonlight Rose Dragon or Moonlight Black Rose Dragon. It might get renamed. I feel like it should, so it counts as a Rose Dragon, but sadly it does not. Then of course comes Sisters of the Rose in the Duelist pack. We did get some new members to the archetype. We had Red Rose Dragon. We had a new Synchro monster, which is Garden Rose Maiden. We had a new spell that allows us to draw cards, Frozen Rose and Search, as well as a new trap, Blooming of the Darkest Rose, and a retrain of an old card, Dark Rose Fairy. The archetype also received a jump promo in Japan, and then for us a special ed promo in the form of White Rose Dragon. So the deck still was missing a lot and definitely needed a lot of help, and thankfully come the Premium Pack and the Vrains Pack, we're getting some epic new cards for this deck. Now I don't think playing this deck in the way that Konami intends you to play it is going to be a super powerful deck. I think the idea is to play on flavor as much as possible. You are running dragons and plants together, and whilst Plant Synchro used to be really strong back in the day, and they're definitely highlighting the Plant Synchro-esque nature of this deck with this new support, I think the main way you're going to play this, or the best way to have fun with this, is going to be playing a Rose Dragon themed deck. Black Rose is your boss monster. So far we haven't seen a retrain of Black Rose since Moonlight, so I think the whole strategy of the deck is to get your Black Rose out on the field as quickly as possible and do as much damage. So let's start things off with their Link monster, which is called, I think it's Quick Rose Dragon. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it is a Link 2 Rose Dragon that points middle down and middle left, surprisingly. It's a Link 2. It requires 2 monsters with different types, so obviously they're recommending a plant and a plant and a dragon here. During the main phase quick effect, you contribute it and 1 plant monster to special summon 1 Rose Synchro monster or 1 plant Synchro monster from your extra deck. Now, first effect is quite interesting because you actually can summon Moonlight with this card, which obviously I feel like Konami may have listened to us in the sense that Black Rose Moonlight Dragon wasn't really considered part of the archetype. Because of this Rose Synchro monster, you can also summon Garden Rose Maiden. So both of these cards do have Rose in their name, and both aren't technically Rose Dragons. Of course, you can also summon Black Rose if you really want to. Now, what's also cool is this is treated as a Synchro Summon, which means if you bring out Black Rose Dragon, you get to nuke the board, which is great. In response to your opponent making a pretty strong board, you can sack this in the plant to nuke the board. Amazing. If a monster or monsters you control is destroyed by a card effect, while it's in your graveyard, you can banish it from your graveyard, special summon 1 Rose Dragon from your graveyard. You can only use each effect of Cross Rose Dragon once per turn. Now, obviously, this is pretty cool because when Black Rose nukes the board, obviously you're going to lose your Black Rose. But now we have another way to make sure our Black Rose comes back on the field and is able to do some damage, further extending on the fact that our boss monster is meant to be Black Rose Dragon. We're going to nuke the board and we're going to swing with our Rose Dragon. So in a sense, we do have that Cross Rose Dragon is a pseudo retrain of the Blue Rose Dragon. So I've spoken to a lot of people who thought that the artwork on this card isn't great. I think it's alright. It definitely doesn't stand up there with, Red Rose and White Rose, who just look absolutely beautiful. But obviously you can't beat the original Black Rose. Black Rose looks absolutely amazing. Now, this is worth knowing, this only has 800 attack, but this card is not meant to stay out on the field for very long. I could see this actually being splashed in other plant decks or other decks that just, because it doesn't specify 2 dragons, or a dragon and a plant. It's any 2 monsters. So this is a splashable Link monster, which is great. You can just throw Black Rose in your extra deck and make this and then pass because it's a quick effect. So this Link monster is actually really powerful and definitely could see some play in some serious decks, particularly dragon decks. But anything in general, like this card is nuts. So I can't wait for it to actually physically come here. The next card we're going to take a look at is a brand new main deck monster for the archetype, and her name is Rose Princess. She's a level 3 Earth Plant with 1200 attack and 800 defense, so finally Black Rose can be happy that we have another main deck monster, or another monster in the archetype that's not a dark. So her effect is, you can special summon her from your hand, but her own effect once per turn. And that's her continuous effect. And her first effect is, if your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon her from your hand, and if you do, she's treated as a tuner. Her second effect is she can be discarded to add a Right Rose Cloister from your deck to your hand. So it's been a long time, I think, since we've seen archetypal discard field spell searches. I mean, it takes me back to like the round GX days when we had monsters like Harpy Queen. Obviously, we had Captain Gold. We had the one that could search the Umi one, the Umi Retrain, Legendary Ocean. We also, of course, had Gravekeeper's Commandant. So really nice that we get one of those in this deck. And it actually does, we probably have some use for it in Grave as well. So you'd be definitely running through this card anyway. So it's nice that it has the second effect, because its first effect is really good. The fact that she can become a tuner on the field is really useful, especially because she's a level 3. So we go back to our old friend White Rose Dragon. So as we know, White Rose Dragon can be special summoned from your hand if you control a plant or dragon tuner. So originally, the best choices we had for this were cards like Glow Up Bulb or Dandelion, even though he's banned, or more in particular, we had Red Rose Dragon. So the play being, we have Red Rose, we special this, we sync them, we make Black Rose, we summon Blue Rose, we nuke the board, yada, yada, yada. So nowadays, we don't have to worry as much about having Red Rose in our hand. So if we're playing, of course, 3 Red Rose and 3 Rose Princess, we have access to 6 level 3 tuners. 6 3-level tuners make it a lot easier for us to summon Black Rose. The fact that she can also go ahead and search out our new field spell is also really useful, and I do like the fact that, the Rose Maiden monster has a very similar effect, of course, to Garden Rose Maiden, which when Synchro Summon can go grab Black Garden. So she is actually pretty cool, but whether or not, I do feel that even if we're not going to run Right Rose Cloister in our decks in the future, I do think this card is going to see some play in Rose Dragon decks, simply for the ability that she's just a really good card. And she doesn't even really need, you don't even really need to run this specifically in a Rose Dragon deck. She is semi-generic. She's a level 3 plant tuner, essentially. Even if you don't need her to be a tuner, you can just normal her, and she's not a tuner, especially when we take into account the secondary effect that she's able to get us the field spell. So let's take a look at the field spell. And the field spell is White Rose Cloister, which is a nice, a nice opposite view or contradiction to Black Garden. So we have a White Garden, we have a Black Garden. I think that's actually pretty cool. And it kind of simulates the whole change from Akiza in the start of the anime being this really dark, evil, well, not evil, but really dark witch-like character, to becoming someone who's pure and wants to help everyone at the end of the series. So I think that's pretty cool. So what it does, the first effect can only be used once per turn, and it's named, so it is a hard once per turn. If you control no monsters, you can special summon 1 Rose Dragon monster or plant monster from your hand. So again, this is splashable in plant decks. It's not specifically limited to a Rose Dragon deck, which makes this card really, really good. Its second effect is during your draw phase. Before you draw, you can declare 1 type of card, monster, spell, or trap. Reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's the type you declared, apply the following effect for the rest of this turn. Level 7 or higher synchro monsters you control gain 1000 attack. Now, I think this second effect is really gimmicky, and I feel it's the only way they could kind of justify doing it, because the first effect is really strong, but it's not amazing, and I feel they definitely want you to include it, but it does give your Black Rose Dragon an extra, or your Moonlight Dragon as well, an extra 1000 attack. And of course, you've got other level 7 synchros that you can run too, that this helps out, so it's definitely making up a full ranks level 7 Synchro Dragon toolbox for this deck, which could actually be a pretty interesting way to play this deck going forward. So not simply just relying on Black Rose Dragon. I think you can make the Cyberse Quantum Dragon in this deck. I'm not exactly sure of its materials, but that's just a level 7. I think it's a level 7, it could be level 8, so you have to forgive me. But other level 7 Synchro Dragons that you might want to run in the deck, feel free to. But I think, of course, the flavor of it being mostly Moonlight Rose Dragons is pretty cool. Now, I do think the effects where you put card on top of your deck. Now, that seems really gimmicky, and I feel like they wouldn't put an effect like this unless they're going to give us a card in the archetype that is able to put cards on top of the deck. Now, there may have been a plant, monster, tuner, synchro in the past that was able to interact with the top card of our deck. But to my knowledge, can't think of one, but I know there's nothing in the archetype currently, at least in the recent support, that does interact with the top of our deck. And of course, we've only seen 2 new cards from the premium pack. They're not just going to give us 2 random Rose Dragon cards out of the blue just for this. I know the reason they gave us a synchro, a link obviously gave us new benefits. We could also get a Black Rose Retrain. It is likely that could interact with the top of our deck, be a new, which I do think, as good as Black Rose Dragon and Black Rose Moonlight are as cards, especially now that we can both cheat them out with our Link monster, I think it is imperative that we do get a Black Rose Dragon that's able to give us much more of a field presence. Because I know Moonlight is able to bounce level 5 or higher monsters that are special summon. Most people are running Links now, and Links don't have levels. We need a Black Rose Dragon that's able to deal with Links. And of course, obviously, regular Black Rose Dragon is able to do that, but I feel we may get a new version of Black Rose that is able to clear Links, which I think would be really, really cool. Or even deal with back row, I think would be cool as well. But anyway, guys, what do you think about this new support? Are you as excited as I am? Do you think we're definitely going to see some more cards from the premium pack for Black Rose in terms of when they're coming to the TCG? If we take into account when Orgoth the Relentless and Bastion's Ritual Monster came out in one of the previous year's premium packs, they did come to us in our Battles of Legend, and we did get Link Vrains Pack 2 stuff in our Battles of Legend, so I think it's very likely that we're going to see all the Black Rose stuff come together in our next Battles of Legend. So I think we're definitely due for some more Black Rose cards, which would be great. Well, I should say Rose Dragon. I would love more cards based around Akiza, because I know Garden Rose Maiden, I think, is meant to kind of represent Akiza as well, and Rose Princess kind of, but definitely love a card that full on like references Akiza 100%. Basically put her in the archetype. I think that would be really cool. But anyway, guys, what do you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you for my next video.